Well, since I'm not feeling well today, it's editing day and adding more video. So today is part 2. Part 1 I aired earlier. That's a little bit about the house and the tools that were successful and not successful. So let's get into the other standing question, and that is, how much rebar did we end up using in this place? Because really, everybody keeps citing it's not necessary, but there were spots that I think we're going to put the rebar in. So let's walk through the house and show you where we put some rebar. More than a little bit. Before I get into the discussion about rebar in the walls, I want to touch on interior walls. Would I stay with 4-inch on the exterior walls? All day long, because I got posties to deal with. But any location like this, interior walls, the CR, where it's just basically floating, I would use 6-inch on the whole thing. We will never use 4-inch on the inside again. And again, as I mentioned in the other video, the reason is we weren't able to interlace all of this. And if we could have, that would have made life so much better. We would have still put the steel in though, guys. So let's address all the steel that we put in the build here. Under each of these walls are pins for the blocks. So the floor is pinned to the first layer. Every third layer has a clip going into the wall according to design specs, the company that does the AAC. Well, you better put fresh stuff on there.
Huh?
You better put fresh stuff on there before you bolt it.
Press stuff.
Yeah.
You're not pressing.
Huh?
Down there, the washer is going down and over here.
New blocks. But drill your countersink holes before you do it. Just do new blocks, Michael. Because these will go up above in the upper layer there. Nobody will ever know. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to start over again when you fuck up. As I stand in the bedroom here, please note that we didn't do any vertical other than the underpinning on the floor. We didn't do any vertical rebar on that wall at all, okay? None of these two walls because they don't have any windows on them. However, every third course had rebar going across on it, okay? Now, on this section, because we knew that we were going to have these 460s sitting in here, and that was going to be a problem. So there are two rebar, if you remember watching the videos, there's two rebar going all the way up through this, okay? As it's done, then it's welded to the verticals and to this horizontal, okay? Now when we do the top run, we're also going to add another piece of rebar because that's kind of the final run that's going to be inside the house. If I get minor cracking outside of the house, I don't care. So same thing here with the bathroom wall. There's underpinnings here. Every third course has a rebar coming through it. And if you recall, in the bathroom, we tied this corner all the way through and down to the pillar. So similarly, this wall comes to this wall and then down towards me. Okay, so there's actually a fair amount of rebar in these walls, guys. Mostly because the design that we chose, or that I laid out, has a lot of free-floating walls. And there was no plans of putting posts inside the house, similar to this little postie that we're going to do for the door. There was no plans to go beyond that. So there is a lot more rebar in the walls than you might think. In the video, you know, maybe it was late last week, somewhere along there, I realized that I had no video of any of the pins going along the floor there. So again, it's worth noting that there is a fair amount of rebar in here. You know, we've got this piece in here above the window. And to note also, guys, these lentils, like the guys are working on over here, okay, they're not just, this isn't just adhesive in here. This has also got a piece of rebar with a ready rod on it and it's anchored straight into the wall. Okay, so and this window here, of course, is anchored into the pillar, which I wasn't crazy about, but Lynn wanted a window there. But as far as these go, they are anchored straight into the wall. This little postie, just similar to this one, they've all got rebar in them. Okay, so there is more than you might think, and a soupy, semi-soupy adhesive was put down in there to fill with the gap. Okay, Michael's desperately trying to recover this one, and it ain't gonna work because Michael better not you better not install it like that. Okay, so yeah, there's been a lot more rebar in these walls than you might think. Remember, even here we have rebar going from this little kick wall where the refrigerator is going to sit, and it anchors around onto that main wall there. So now again, the design specs from these guys on their installation techniques and all of that type of thing don't call for any rebar at all in the walls. And you know, when we first started this project, I said, yeah, and there's no rebar in the walls, you know, there's some pins and that's about it. But as we were going, especially looking at these floating walls, and then that one for the bedroom where it's just got, you know, 4 blocks straight in a row. I mean, that's just waiting to crack, right? But we went that extra length and put the rebar in there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and if I come and just walk back here a little bit, again, to mention that, you know, that lentil that's going above the window there is all tied in with ready rod. It's glued, let dry, ready rod go through it, fill up the cavity and tighten her down and let her sit. Once it's been sitting for a while, then the guys install it. Okay, so that's an update on the use of AAC. In my opinion, needs a little bit more steel in the walls, but I wouldn't drill it to the length that the light block product does, which is essentially just hollow block with a ton of rebar in it and big cavities like this that you have to fill with concrete. So it kind of defeats the whole purpose, but granted, we did put more steel in there than we expected to. Later, Gators.